Hello and welcome to the May 2023 Recreational Astronomy Night meeting of the RASC Toronto Centre. My name is Paul Markov and I'll be your host for this evening. We are coming to you live from the Ontario Science Centre in front of an audience of about 20 people. To our online viewers, a reminder that we have resumed in-person meetings here, so if you can, please join us next time. For those who definitely cannot make it, because you may be far, far away, don't worry, we will continue broadcasting these meetings online. Thanks to our superb AV team, comprised of Andrew and Betty Reed, Ward Legros, Anu Chalucci, and Reza Mohammed. Thank you for making these meetings possible for us. And as you know, I'm always on the lookout for presentations. Our June meeting is now full, but we have openings for the July 5 meeting. Future meetings, which occur on the first Wednesday of each month, also have available time slots. This evening, we have three presentations as usual, and they are as follows. Andy Beaton will talk to us about the sky this month. Then we'll have Clay Davis. He'll talk to us about telescope mirror making, a superb polish with a cheap but vile, slow, messy slurry. And John Percy is back, and unfortunately we had technical issues last meeting, so he's back presenting the mysterious long secondary periods in red giants, explained or not. Then our president, Tom Luton, who's usually here in person, will close the meeting, but online this time with announcements, and we expect to be done around 9:30. If you are watching us online and have a question, please enter it in the chat box, and someone here will ask the question on your behalf to the speaker. And for in-room questions, please hang on until we get you a microphone before you ask your question. Otherwise, the online folks won't be able to hear you. The mic is over there. Very good. Thank you. And then let's see, show of hands, do we have somebody here for the first time, member or not? It does not matter. We have 3-4 people or so. Okay, very good, welcome. And also, if you're watching us online for the first time, please say hello through the chat box and let us know where you're from. So let's get the meeting started with Andy and the sky this month.
Wow, this is so exciting, live human beings. My name's Andy Beaton. I'm an amateur astronomer living here in Toronto, and I'm here to talk about the sky this month. People who have been through my talks before know the routine. We start with the big picture, go through key dates, talk about the moon, the planets, something from the deep sky, a double star, a variable star because that's my thing, and whatever's coming up in spaceflight that's interesting. So heading out tonight, peering through the clouds, this is what we'd be seeing. Our usual winter constellations drifting off to the sunset. And we've got our spring constellations up in the sky, Gemini, Cancer, Leo, and so on. Planets, yeah, we're not seeing, oh, sorry, I'm not loud enough, okay. Sorry, okay, planets, we've definitely got Venus up there in the evening, which I'm sure you've all seen on whatever clear skies we've had. Other than that, very faint Mars, and not much else in the way of exciting planets. However, if we show up early in the morning before the next meeting, early June, then we see the good planets showing up. We've got Jupiter and Saturn there. Uranus and Neptune will be available. And by early morning June, we're well into our big summer constellations. The whole summer Milky Way will be up there. So we've got everything from Sagittarius up to Cygnus and beyond. So the nights are getting shorter. This is that time of year where we get less and less time for those long exposure photographs. Twilight tonight, twilight in the next couple days, ending not long after 10, starting up again at 3:45. But by the next meeting, we've lost an hour at bedtime and another hour in the morning. So the nights are going to be quite short for observing, at least in this latitude. Important dates coming up. We've got the new moon. That's what we all plan our observing around. Moon is at apogee, which is, I put a note in there, which means far, on May 26th, and perigee on May 11th. If you're looking for a good observing project, try measuring the size of the moon on those two dates or taking pictures of the moon with the same equipment and compare the sizes. Full moon, we've got two full moons this time, May 5th and June 4th. We have a penumbral lunar eclipse coming up on May 5th. We aren't going to see it. It's going to be on the other side of the world. And even if you are on the other side of the world, it's going to be pretty dull. You're going to see the moon going in the faintest part of the shadow of the Earth. But I'm thinking that now that we're on the internet, maybe somebody is out there in Australia yearning to see a penumbral lunar eclipse. So this is your big chance. We have the Eta Aquariid meteor shower coming up on May 5th, and I'll discuss that later. So we've got the moon, first quarter coming up on May 27th. We've got the full moon now, last quarter on the 12th, new moon on the 19th. We've got the lunar X coming up on May 27th. And for those who don't know what that is, that's a pair of craters side by side, and at a certain time of the year or a certain time of the month, the sunlight glances across them at just the right angle, and it looks like a lit up X against the dark lunar surface. It's kind of cool. It's 2:41 in the morning, so you'd want to stay up for it. May 28th is when the lunar straight wall is illuminated in a way that makes it show up best. It'll be visible for most of the evening, so that one's not quite so time constrained. We've got planets. Mercury, however, is not going to be one of them. We'll get a bit of a view of it in the morning, halfway through the month, but it won't be an outstanding apparition this time. Venus, on the other hand, is unmistakable. Look to the west at night. It's bright, it's visible. It's that thing that looks like the airplane that isn't landing. If you watch for it throughout the month, you can be able to see that it is changing its shape as it approaches us. So at sunset, we also have Mars to the west. It's distant, it's low in the sky, it's going to be small. By the time twilight is over, it's going to be in a rotten position to view, but it will look red. And if you know people who have never seen the planet Mars and want to have a look and say, there's that red thing, and they will understand that, yeah, Mars really is a red planet. So the good planets are going to be in the morning. Jupiter, by the end of the month, it'll be well out of the morning twilight. But even when it is twilight, it's still going to be a pretty spectacular object. You're going to see the cloud belts, you're going to see the major moons, maybe the red spot. That would take a certain amount of luck. But before that, we have Saturn rising, and it's about 2 hours ahead of Jupiter. By the time you're up and set up in the morning, it's going to be a really nice object. It'll be high enough that anybody you can talk into getting up that early to have a look at it is going to be really impressed. Uranus and Neptune, well, Uranus, it's too close to the sun. We're not going to see much of it this time. Neptune rises after Saturn. It doesn't get very high before twilight, and it's not going to be very bright, and it's pretty far away. So I wouldn't plan my schedule around seeing Neptune for this month at least. On the other hand, we do have minor planets, which will make good objects. By the time we get to the end of the month, when morning twilight is just about done, Pluto will be up near the near the meridian. It'll be about as high as it gets. It's in Capricornus, so it's finally getting away from the mess of the Milky Way. It's probably worth starting to look for it again. Easiest way is to take pictures a few days apart and look for that moving object. But with a telescope, 10 inches or higher, you should be able to actually see it with an eyeball. I glimpsed it once with an 8-inch under outstanding conditions, but I tried it several times and never repeated. So your mileage may vary, of course. The other minor planet we'll be able to see is Ceres, and it is going to be if you're an asteroid hunter, a minor planet hunter, this is a perfect time for it. It's bright, it's 7th magnitude, it's 0.61 arc seconds across, so if you really crank up the magnification, you may be able to see a disk. I would be very curious if anybody listening to this talk actually gets a chance to try that and let me know what results you get. I'm very curious. So as always, I like to throw in a bit of deep sky stuff. M104, the Sombrero Galaxy, is the one I picked this month. It's a nice big 8th magnitude galaxy. You can find it with binoculars. If you have a look at it through a telescope, you can see it's got a pointy spindle shape and you can see the dust lane going through it. It is pretty far south, so try and time your observations of it close to when it's at the meridian. You know, get the best sky possible because it's worth it. It's a really interesting galaxy. It's insanely huge, and here's a picture of it. This is from the Space Telescope. That dust lane is just so cool. I made this the screen on my work computer because I'm just so fascinated by this picture. You see the globular clusters in there and some background galaxies. A very cool object. I like it a lot. But for those of you looking for something a bit more challenging, who have done your Messier lists and seen the spindle-shaped galaxy, I'm going to suggest a Quasar 3C273. It's also in Virgo, and it's a galaxy with an extremely active core. There's a ton of material pouring into the black hole at the center of this galaxy. It's insanely far away, so this extremely bright thing just looks like a star in the sky. It's which means because it's so concentrated, you can see it from the city. I've actually measured it a few times from my backyard around Bathurst and Bloor, and there's not much light pollution worse than that. So 12.9 magnitude, more or less. This is the cool thing. It's variable. It changes. And if you want to be a scientist and record the brightness, the American Association of Variable Star Observers wants your data. They are tracking this. They've been tracking it for decades. Professional astronomers don't have time to go out and measure it every time, so it's up to us amateurs to gather that data. And if you want to, once you've seen it, you can go to your friends and boast that you have seen 2.2 billion years into the past, before life even existed on Earth, or if it did, it was very, very simple stuff. So comets and meteors, we do have meteors coming up. The Eta Aquariids, this one is going to be a big ripoff. It's under a full moon. You're not going to see very few of them, but you might see some of the really bright ones. And if you see those, that makes it worth going out. Potentially up to 60 meteors an hour. I don't know what we'll actually see, but if it's clear, we should give it a try. Minor showers, the Eta Lyriids for the first half of the month. The Tau Herculids and the daytime Areatids will be out there as well. I wouldn't actually make the effort to go out and look for these things, but if you happen to see a meteor while you're out observing and trace it back to the center of Lyra, then you have a pretty good idea that you're looking at one of those minor meteor showers. Comets, it's a pretty dull month for comets. The best thing we have is a 9.7 magnitude comet in Aries, C2020 V2 ZTF. The others, we're getting down past 10th magnitude, K2 pan-stars, K5 pan-stars, and that one's not even visible around here. That one I've thrown in for our listeners in the Southern Hemisphere. A2 pan-stars in Andromeda, and we all know E3 ZTF. Was that the biggest ripoff of a comet you've ever seen? All that hype, and what a letdown. So we also have Aurora to watch for. We're in solar cycle 25 and solar activity is on the rise. We had a big night of Aurora a few weeks ago. Those of us in Toronto had an excellent look at the clouds obscuring them, but we got to suffer and envy at people posting all the pictures they'd taken of Aurora all around North America. If it could happen then, it can happen again. Keep an eye on spaceweather.com. That's the go-to website for maps and up-to-date forecasts. If it looks like it's going to be a clear night, take a minute, check it, see if there's going to be aurora coming. And if there are, spread the news because they're super cool things to see. So I always like to throw in a multiple star or a double star for Blake, who I didn't see here tonight. 35 Coma Berenice is the one that I thought looked interesting this time. It's a pretty nice looking double star, 5.1 magnitude, 7.2. Pretty tightly separated, so you want to crank up the magnification. And this is the thing that got my attention. The Night Sky Observer's Guide says the secondary is purple. I have never seen a purple star. And since I read that, of course, it's been cloudy all week, and I haven't been able to check this observation. So once again, I'm going to appeal to the people listening to this talk. Get out and have a look and see what color that star is, and report back on the chat following this YouTube presentation. I would be very curious to see what actual live observers have to say about this. Now, I can't go without a variable star. It wouldn't be my presentation if we didn't. Arboretus is the one I picked this week or this month. It's not a hard one to find. It goes from 6 magnitude down to 13.3 magnitude and changes brightness every 13 days. It is what we call a Mira type variable. And these are red giants near the end of their life cycle. They are unstable, they contract, they heat up, it makes them expand, they cool, they contract, and materials constantly being spat out into space. It will eventually end up as a planetary nebula. Now, the interesting thing about this is it's what the AAVSO calls a legacy campaign star. I'm sure you know that there's all kinds of automated sky surveys, getting to work, recording everything in the night sky every 3 or 4 nights. And those things are ideally suited for gathering data on long period variable stars like this. However, they have about 100 years worth of data on this star. And in order to calibrate what they're recording from the sky surveys with what they've recorded from observers over many decades, they need amateur observers to keep observing it and to report the brightness so they can draw a correlation between what the automated telescopes and what we with our eyeballs have observed. So feel free to step in and observe some of these nice, easy Mira variable stars and contribute your bit to science. So coming up in spaceflight, new discoveries from the James Webb Telescope are always coming along. The Peregrine robotic lunar lander is being launched sometime within the next few weeks or the next few months, depending on how things go. It's supposed to be soon, but we all know how these things go. Tropic cyclone monitoring satellites are being launched on May 3rd and 15th. More Falcon 9s than I could bother counting. There's a whole bunch of them. They're launching those annoying Starlink satellites. But if you're in Florida and you want to see a space launch, people who have seen them tell me they're pretty spectacular. The Perseverance rover is dropping soil samples for later pickup on Mars. Keep an eye on that on the NASA website. The space station's passing overhead early morning until May 14th, and then late evening until May 31st. And after that, then it's going to be in an orbit where it doesn't pass over Toronto. Heavensabove.com is the place to go for times and locations of ISS passes and other interesting satellites that happen to be up there. Yeah, talking about the JWST, I just had to throw this into the presentation. This is the planet Uranus in infrared light. Are those rings cool or what? I mean, that's the kind of thing you should be looking for on the internet to see what's happening in astronomy. This is something never imagined until about a month ago, and now we have it. So what if it's cloudy or the Leafs are winning and you don't want to go out and set up your telescope? They could be winning. Zooniverse.org has a whole bunch of citizen science projects that you can do at your computer. 4 arbitrary ones I picked this month that looked interesting. Cosmic muon images of deep sky objects. The Zwicky Chemical Factory, examining nebula to see what chemicals are being produced by supernova and other interesting events in the sky. Active asteroids, trying to determine what an asteroid is and what a comet is and where the dividing line is between the two. And the Solar Active Region Spotter. They're for your daytime observing needs. Have a look at images of the sun and report on interesting things that you see. So that's what I have for this month. Thanks very much, and I hope we have some clear skies.
Thanks. I got a question about the variable star Arbu that you mentioned.
Yeah.
Its period, you listed it as 13.3 days, but actually Myras have a period typically around a year. And so I'm questioning maybe there's a typo somewhere, but maybe you got a computer there, maybe you could check it, or somebody else might want to have a quick look. And
I have never done a presentation yet without a typo. That looked low to me as well.
okay.
I'm thinking it might have been 31 days.
Well, I'd call it maybe 300 days, but
that's very likely too.
okay.
I will check that out and get you a proper answer before the meeting's out.
Okay, not that it matters much because it's an interesting star. It begs observations. So just go and observe it and measure it, right? So that's the bottom line.
Yeah, thanks for catching that.
Okay, thank you.
Any more questions in the room? I don't see any. Okay, let's go online. Who is taking online questions this evening? Emma. Okay, Emma, go ahead.
Hi, we did not get any questions online.
Okay.
Okay, very good.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Andy. Great presentation as usual.